Today, we're diving into a really frustrating paradox that affects millions of people, the two-income trap. We're going to find out why making more money can actually leave you with less. So does this hit close to home? You look at your total household income, right? And on paper, it looks great. Maybe it's even six figures. But then you check your bank account at the end of the month and you're just wondering where it all went. If you've ever had that thought, we make way too much money to feel this broke, believe me, you are not alone. Let's make this super real for a second. Imagine a couple. She's in marketing, he's in IT. And together, they're pulling in about $133,000 a year. That puts them in the top quarter of all American households. They should be living the dream, right? But instead, they're basically living paycheck to paycheck, and an unexpected car repair has to go straight onto a credit card. And this feeling, this sense of being so financially fragile, even with a high income, that's what we're gonna call the six-figure paradox. It's this super common experience that leaves a ton of people feeling really confused and honestly pretty stressed out. And you know what the wildest part is? You followed all the rules. You got the degrees, you built the careers, you even bought a house in a good school district. You did literally everything society told you would lead to financial security. So if it's not a personal failure, what is going on? Well, it turns out it's the result of a huge financial bait and switch. This whole situation actually has a name. And just giving it a name is the very first step to really understanding it and then escaping it. It's called the two-income trap. And this isn't some new internet buzzword. Way before she was a senator, Elizabeth Warren was a Harvard law professor specializing in bankruptcy. Back in 2003, she and her daughter wrote a book about this after studying thousands of families who had gone bankrupt. And what they found was, well, it was absolutely shocking. Families with two incomes were more likely to go bankrupt than families with just one income. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. You're working twice as hard, bringing home two paychecks, and you end up in a more dangerous position? That's not just a budgeting problem, that's a systemic trap. So how in the world did this trap get set? To really get the mechanics of it, we've got to jump in a time machine and rewind about 50 years. So back in the 1970s, a family could live pretty comfortably on a single income. And the other parent's ability to go to work, that was like this incredible insurance policy. If something went wrong, they could step in. But fast forward to today, and that insurance policy has already been cashed in just to pay the basic bills. The backup plan is now the default. And just look at what happened to the cost of everything. The price of a typical home, even after you adjust for all the inflation, has literally doubled. See, when families with two incomes started entering the housing market, they could afford to bid more. And the result? Prices just shot up for everybody. And now you need two incomes just to buy what one used to. And oh, it is not just housing. The fixed costs of being middle class have just exploded. Healthcare is up 600%, college tuition is up a mind-blowing 1,200%, and childcare, which was an expense that barely existed for a lot of families in the 70s, now costs over $11,000 per kid per year on average. Basically, every single dollar from that second income was just swallowed whole by these rising costs. So where exactly does that entire second paycheck go? This is where it gets really interesting. Let's follow the money, because this is where the trap becomes crystal clear. Okay, let's just take a pretty typical second income, say $50,000. On paper, that sounds amazing, right? Like a huge boost to the family's finances. It should be life-changing. But let's start subtracting. First thing, right off the bat, taxes. In our progressive tax system, the more you earn, the higher the tax rate is on your next dollar. So that second income doesn't get taxed starting from the bottom bracket. Oh no, it gets piled right on top of the first income, and it's taxed at your household's highest possible rate. So after all the federal, state, and payroll taxes get ripped out of it, that $50,000 paycheck is already down to about $35,000 in take-home pay. A huge chunk is gone before you even see a dime of it. But we're not done. Next up are all the costs that only exist because that second person is working. Childcare is the big one, of course. But then there's the cost of a second commute, gas, car maintenance, maybe even a whole other car payment. And finally, you've got what I call the exhaustion expenses. You know, more takeout, more delivery, more convenience stuff because nobody has the time or the energy to cook and clean. Okay, so let's do the math. You subtract the taxes, you subtract the childcare, the commute, all the convenience costs, and that $50,000 income could realistically end up contributing as little as $2,000 to the family's bottom line for the entire year. And this just illustrates the harsh reality perfectly. That breaks down to about $8 a workday, less than $1 per hour. Someone is working a full-time job away from their kids and their family just for the household to make less than minimum wage for all that effort. It's insane. But the real danger here isn't just the ridiculously low net pay. It's what happens when this becomes your new normal. This is the moment the trap really snaps shut. Here's the most important part. Your lifestyle expands to require both paychecks. The bank approves your mortgage based on 2 incomes. Your car loans are calculated based on 2 incomes. You've built a whole financial life that's running at 100% capacity, with 0 room for error. The backup plan is gone. And that means a single job loss or a health crisis can bring the entire house of cards tumbling down. Okay, I know that sounds incredibly bleak, but the whole point of seeing the trap isn't to scare you, it's to show you there's a way out. And there is. It just requires a pretty fundamental shift in your mindset, away from a 2-income lifestyle and towards a 1-income foundation. The strategy itself is simple, but that doesn't mean it's easy. First, you calculate your absolute essential must-pay fixed costs. That's your foundation. Second, and this is the key, you structure your life so that one of your incomes can cover that foundation completely. Yeah, that might mean a smaller house or 1 less car payment. But then, third, the entire second income is now totally free to be aggressively saved and invested. And this changes everything. You're not just saving for some far-off retirement. You are actively buying back your freedom, your flexibility, the option for one partner to maybe switch careers or stay home with the kids or take care of an aging parent. You are rebuilding that insurance policy that modern life has basically stolen from us. And all of this leaves us with one final big question. See, 2 incomes can definitely create the appearance of being wealthy. You know, the bigger house, the fancier cars. But what the 2-income trap teaches us is that appearances aren't wealth, and just having cash flow isn't the same as security. So the real question isn't just about what you earn, it's about what you're actually building. A fragile facade or a solid foundation of real financial freedom.